Have you ever caught yourself saying, I don't have a choice? Or maybe it sounded something like, we're short staffed again. Why do I even try? Leadership won't allow it. We've tried stuff like this before and it never works. Or, families are impossible. All they ever do is complain. Aaron, this is just how the industry is. It's not that you have no choices, it's just that you start to quietly believe that you don't. Do you know what I'm talking about here? That's not burnout, that's actually what we call choice poverty. And if we don't interrupt it, it will quietly drain your influence as a leader. So today I want to teach you something practical. This is something that's teachable, it's repeatable. It's a model that I use that helps leaders shift from choice poverty into choice abundance that I call the choice leadership strategy. Because leadership doesn't begin when circumstances change, it begins when you change how you respond to them. So let's start with the letter C. C stands for circumstances are real. So let's get started. Great leaders never ignore or cover over difficult situations. They acknowledge them. Now, I'm not talking about the toxic positivity, everything's sunshine and rainbows. No, staffing shortages are real. Regulations are real. Budget constraints are real. Family complaints are real. Burnout is real. Strong leaders don't deny that constraints exist. They acknowledge them. But here's the difference. Leaders who feel resigned to their fate say things like, these circumstances are just out of my control, or they control me. Where engaged leaders say something different. They say, these circumstances are real, but they don't define how I respond. See, you can face your reality without surrendering your ability to make a difference. That is strength. Now, H stands for Halt the automatic story. The most dangerous leadership voice isn't external, it's almost always internal. It's the story that runs automatically in our hearts and in our minds that convinces us that there's nothing I can do here. Aaron, I've tried everything, nothing works. This is just how it is. That story feels so real to you. It feels so true because you've rehearsed it in your mind. But you have to stop it. You have to halt it. You have to catch it. You have to interrupt it. Because the moment you say, I have no choice here, you've already surrendered your influence. And most of the time, that sentence isn't accurate anyways. It's emotional, but it's not accurate. And leadership requires awareness of your internal narrative, the things that you're saying in your mind. Because if you don't lead your thoughts will lead you. Now, O stands for open 3 alternative options. Now, this is where discipline really begins to step in as a leader. See, when you feel stuck, you've got to force yourself to list at least 3 possible actions. 3. Even if they're imperfect, even if they're uncomfortable, even if you don't like them. For example, are you short-staffed? Option 1 could be that you adjust your expectations and communicate the new expectations clearly. Option 2 could be that maybe you cross-train some people differently. Option 3 could be maybe to have a direct accountability conversation that you've been avoiding. See, you don't need unlimited options. You just need to see that you have more than one. Because when the brain sees alternatives, it reclaims that sense of agency, the belief and the ability that you have internally to create change. And agency restores your leadership energy. Now, I stands for identify what's in your control. This one changes everything. You may not control your staffing levels. You may not control all the leadership decisions in your environment or the regulations or the economy. But you can often control your tone, your posture, how you approach your challenges, your timing, how you talk about challenges, your follow-up. There's a bunch of things you can control. And here's the truth that most leaders miss. Your teams don't respond to the circumstances first. They respond to you and your posture inside of those circumstances. They look to you because you set the emotional temperature. You set the clarity. You set whether you're going to come from courage or fear. And you always control something. Always. Now, C stands for choose intentionally, Because when you decide in that moment, where am I going to come from? What can I control? Now we're moving from reaction to intentionality. Reactive leadership says, this is happening to me. Intentional leadership says, I'm choosing how I'm going to respond to that. That shift is really subtle, but it changes everything. Intentional choice slows you down just enough to ask, is this aligned with who I want to be? Is this aligned with the culture I'm trying to build? Is this the example that I want my team to follow? See, choice creates culture every single time. Now, E stands for execute with ownership. And this is where leaders really separate themselves. This is where you stand out. This is where you can shine. No blame, no apologies, no passive language, not, well, I guess we have to. But instead, you guys, here's what we get to do, or here's what we're going to do. I want you to catch this. Ownership is contagious. When leaders own their decisions, their teams stop drifting. Execution doesn't require perfection, but it does require commitment. And when you execute with ownership, you model abundance for your team. Maybe not an abundance of resources, maybe not an abundance of things going perfect the way you want, but an abundance of agency. Even though things are difficult, we can still do something here. Now, let me bring this home. You know, the choice model isn't really a theory. It's more like a daily discipline. It's how you lead when you're tired, when you're short-staffed, when you're under pressure, and when you feel boxed in. Choice abundance isn't pretending life is easy. It's remembering that no circumstance has the authority to remove your ability to choose how you're going to show up. You know, I believe that this is where leadership begins. So the next time you catch yourself saying, I don't have a choice here, I want you to pause, because you always do. And the future of your team will be shaped by the one that you make.